Well, you see, that's the whole point, is the word lie needs to be defined. Sometimes not telling the truth, all of the truth, is your moral obligation. And you have a moral obligation to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth at all times to anyone who asks you. You would say, that's not in the Bible. The moral thing to do is for me not to tell you. You ain't getting nothing out of me. Those issues relating to whether you have a moral obligation to tell the whole truth at all times to everyone, that needs to be answered by pointing out you don't. You do not owe them the truth. And see, that's another fallacy. People run around thinking life is just, and they run around thinking you owe the truth to everyone. You don't. That's what the Bible teaches.
That was from Morey's available audio tape from the REF, catalog number J54.
If someone tells you ahead of time that they don't believe that it's wrong to lie, can you believe them for anything they say after that? If someone tells you they believe it's all right to lie if they get in a pinch, how can you believe them anyway? At any time.
Here is the 1992 REF catalog put out by Mr. Morey. Did you work on many of the videos listed in this catalog? Topical videos with Pastor Bullock.
I did basically all of those.
Analysis of the United Pentecostal Church with Bob L. Ross and Mark McNeil. Well, the key is just scanning through a lot of these. You did a lot of them. Islam lecture at the University of Texas. Would you say that any of the videos listed in this catalog were unauthorized and done without Mr. Morey's knowledge? And you are aware that Mr. Morey was distributing this catalog for several years after 1992 when this came out in April.
Right. Well, obviously he knew about this catalog because he was distributing.
Well, that's all I needed to know. So he was aware of all the videos in this catalog.
Yeah, and he's in most of the videos in this catalog.
Did Mr. Morey ever indicate to you that he was not happy with your video work? No. Never did, okay. After Mr. Morey split with me, Larry Wessels, in May 1994, did Mr. Morey remove you from REF video activities?
No, he continued to ask me to, well, for one thing, he asked me to re-edit everything with a new address on the end.
Okay, we have two mailings here by Mr. Morey. You've probably seen them. The urgent warning letter that he sent out in September of 1994, where he claimed, and this claim is made on the inside for the camera there. He's got his urgent warning, emergency alert, extremely confidential. He says down here in one of the paragraphs, the Wessels are claiming the ministry owes them more than $30,000 for office supplies and furniture. No such expenditures were ever requested, approved, or authorized, nor were receipts or verification of these expenses ever presented to the ministry by the Wessels. Okay? Now, you're probably aware of the fact that during the years I was helping Mr. Morey set up his REF organization, I was putting a lot of my own money into expenses to get things set up.
Well, I know that because you were paying me with your own personal checks.
Right, and
I was billing the REF, but you were paying me with personal checks.
Right, and that was just one of the expenses I was paying with personal checks. Besides, just from your own personal knowledge, that's what you know about. But maybe you knew I was paying for other things out of my own bank account, for other things of the REF. Anyway, that was the purpose of this ledger that was kept for years on things I was spending money on. Sometimes we'd even go down to a video store and buy the high movie tapes or something to back up masters on or something so you'd have more space on your shelf. What I have here is an example of a check written to you for $522.50. This is just a copy of it, but you probably recall that receiving that check, $522.50, made out to Dan Rosema for Islam
lectures.
Islam lectures, the videos, and the date on it is July 13th, 1991.
Right.
From what you've told me so far, Mr. Morey knew about the Islam lectures being edited by you.
Sure, they're in the catalog too.
And
well, and he was the only person in the video.
Right, and he sells that video.
Right, he still sells it. In fact, I re-edited it.
And he knew about you editing the video at the time.
Sure.
And he knew you were charging a price, even at that point in time, for your work.
Right.
And yet, in his urgent warning letter, he says that no such expenditures were ever requested, approved, or authorized, nor were receipts or verification of these expenses ever presented to the ministry by the Wessels.
Well, he was in the video, so he knew it was being taped, and he knew that someone was going to have to pay me because I was billing the Research and Education Foundation.
And from what you've just seen, who ended up paying you?
You did.
That's all I needed to know on that one, brother. Okay, next question. In Mr. Morey's September 1995, I guess he comes out with these letters once a year in September. September 1995, we have REF Vindicated. And it says, see details inside. Mr. Morey sent this out nationwide. And in here, as you've read before, he has a letter in here by a man who he claims is a CPA, apparently, named Mr. Joseph T. Slavitskas. It's an MBA here, but in Morey's cover letter in here, he talks about CPA and so forth. It talks about that the Wessels were embezzling money from the Research Education Foundation. Why would they open a secret account? I've got a lot of checks here from the secret bank account, as it's alleged by Mr. Slavitskas, speaking for Mr. Morey. And I've got almost all of them. I went to the bank and got microfilm copies of checks from the secret, so-called secret bank account.
Right.
And there's a lot of checks in here that are made out to a certain person. Do you recognize who this check's made out to?
Yeah, that's me.
Dan Rosema. And there's another one here. These are just two. I didn't want to dig through all the checks, but just for the sake of example. And
it has my invoice.
Right. That one has
I
your
billed them for the REF for right there.
Right. Right.
The invoice number's right.
And it's from the Research and Education Foundation checking account, but this is now being claimed by Mr. Morey as a secret bank account.
Well, you paid me out of a secret bank account.
Dan, are these embezzlement payments to you, or are these legitimate payments for work rendered? I think the answer is obvious.
But they're legitimate.
These are legitimate payments for REF work rendered.
Right. That's my invoice number right there.
Even though it's coming out of that Morey now alleges as a secret bank account of which funds are being looted.
Right.
Okay. B, or question B. When you were receiving all these payment checks from this account, did you ever get the impression that this account was a secret account that Mr. Morey did not know about?
No.
Okay. Dan, did you realize that Mr. Morey has the actual canceled checks from this secret account that are made out to you and has knowledge of these payments to you? Has Mr. Morey ever accused you of embezzling funds because checks are made out in your name?
No.
From this secret bank account? Okay. There's other names. John Lane should be in here is what I'm looking for. And there's one in here for Jim Tungate, Hogan Publications, different individuals.
Right.
Would you say these are legitimate payments for services rendered in these other cases? Of course, this is just subjective now.
Yeah.
But based on your own experience, would you say that any of these other people whose names are mentioned out of the secret bank account, checks written to them out of the secret bank account, are embezzling funds?
No. They're legitimate.
And it looks to me like apparently Mr. Morey is claiming only my brother and myself are the embezzlers. In other words, there can be anyone's name in this secret bank account on checks.
Right.
But no one's embezzling except the Wessels.